One of the most stunning skylines you can find in the U.S. is right here in the Windy City. And guess what? We're adding 2 more skyscrapers to the mix in this battle of the bigs. Phil Dalhausser taking the sand to face off against Andy Benish. It doesn't get better than this. Phil Dalhausser playing in his 300th event of his career. He's won 103 titles. That's a pretty decent percentage. Alive, Rich Lamborn, and this is a quarterfinal matchup, Andy and Miles versus Phil and Avery. But Phil Dalhausser has done so much for this sport, and especially when you look for someone like Andy Benish, they've even won a title together. But how far does Phil Dalhausser's impact go?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to go throughout the history of the sport. I mean, a 34.3% winning percentage. We'll never see the likes of that again, probably on the men's side. Anyways, it's phenomenal. I mean, he's such a great guy. He's somebody that people look up to on both genders. You know, we've heard Brandy Wilkerson on the women's side talk about what a role model he is for her in her game. And so certainly his impact on the younger generation, like Andy Benish, like a Miles Partain, is enormous.
It's huge. As you can see, Avery Drost, his partner in this matchup, they come into this event as the 6th seed. Their opposition, Andy Benish and Miles Partain, the recent Olympians, will face off against the 4-time Olympian Phil Dalhausser and 1-time gold medalist in Dalhausser. There's a look to Miles and Andy for this quarterfinal matchup. I mean, what do these two have to accomplish against the block of Phil Dalhausser?
Well, I think they're looking to just play their game, right? They're constantly working on dialing that option offense that we know they like to run so extensively. One of the big things to watch out for is kind of the height of their passing. He's talked about a lot. They like to really jack it up in the air. Sometimes that can get a little dicey, especially in a city known for its wind. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out against Phil's block.
Speaking of blocks, Andy Benish is coming in as the leading blocker. He's got 2¼ blocks per set. Will that come into effect in this matchup? I'm going to send it now to Mark Sherman for your intro.
Yes, we are all ready to rock. I cannot wait for this match, ladies and gentlemen. We got 2 teams who were absolutely stunning yesterday. 2-0, and they look to go undefeated to Sunday. A huge match, league implications on the line in this one. Let's meet the teams. Come on with me. Come on over here. Let's chat with these gentlemen. What's up, Avery? You look good. You look strong. You ready to rock, Avery? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, Chicago, he says. Ladies and gentlemen, he will feed off of your energy. So let me hear it right now from Mr. Avery Drost. Let's go, baby. Let's go. And his partner who has played in more than 300 events now. He has won more than 100 professional volleyball events. He is the legend, the beast, the Olympic gold medalist, the one and only Phil Dalhausser. And their opponents, oh, they are so much fun to watch. And we did just watch them in the Olympic Games, didn't we? Yes, at the Paris Olympic Games, representing the USA. And this first guy who does things that nobody else can, plays the game in a brand new way, and it's sort of becoming a thing, isn't it? I know all of you are practicing it when you're playing at home, hitting on 2, setting, jump setting, faking everybody out. He does it just about as good, ladies and gentlemen, as anybody in the world. I think he might be the best in the world at it. Let me hear it from Mr. Miles Partain. Let's go, kid. Let's go, Miles. And his partner just started learning that a couple years ago, and he's got real good, real quick. He is the big fella out there. He'll be at the net going way up and pressing way over for the finish. He is Mr. Andy Benish.
2 of those 103 career titles were right here in Chicago. One alongside Nick Lucena. That was his last in 2016 for Phil Dalhausser. The other in 2008 alongside the professor, Todd Rogers. Can he get it done with a third partner? And is that Avery Drost?
Yeah, we'll have to see. There was a little bit of a stretch where Phil was just picking up people, getting them titles. And Casey had Andy Benish, like you mentioned before. Avery would love to get one alongside Phil here in Chicago.
Avery Drost still looking for his first career AVP title. On the other side, Miles Partain and Andy Benesh. This team has been dynamic ever since they got together. One of the most evolved offenses you'll see on the AVP.
And it's an interesting pairing. Miles really cerebral and kind of creative in the way he approaches the game. And then Andy has really kind of come from the indoor side, stepped up big and really kind of worked his way into this unique offense as well, which is very impressive at his size.
A first strike from Avery Drost. You mentioned Andy Benish, the USC Trojan from 14 to 17. He was a 4-year starter at middle blocker. See him raising his hand now, playing the left side as he's partnered with a lefty.
I don't know where he puts this on his list of accomplishments, but Team Fletch member has to be pretty high up there. In the 6-man, let's see.
You see the first look at the high-flying offense. They utilize a jump set more than most. This one from Andy Benish, but Phil on the board. Makes you wonder, with 103 career titles, how many career blocks?
That's a lot. I'm not sure I'm capable of counting that high.
The number does not exist.
Yeah, we got to leave that to our boy Doug Strauss down there. He handles all the stats.
A look to Miles Partain out of UCLA. Decided to take a step away from the indoor game during his time with the Bruins and pursue professional beach volleyball. It's worked out well for him now. Several titles to his name, but this duo wants a little redemption here in Chicago as they finished second last year to Trevor and Theo. Oh, and by the way, that same rematch happened Manhattan Beach just 2 weeks ago.
They'd like to flip the script for sure. A nice block there from Andy. We've seen one from him, one from Phil already. So that's going to be a big factor in this match. The two big fellas, as you mentioned at the top of the broadcast cam. And there's another one.
Andy Benish.
Avery Drost is going to see the majority of the side out here. What are some of the things he can maybe cling on to facing off against a defense and a block like that?
Well, we'll have to see if he gets a little static in his offense, meaning if he kind of just runs the same set all the time. This one's going to come a little more out of the middle, out of necessity. And it gets a third consecutive block on that. So
3 blocks already into the first side switch, 5-2.
Really imposing his will at the net. Andy Benish doing a nice job, and they're serving tough too, which adds to the difficulty for Avery siding out.
Those are some quick strikes for Andy Benish.
And we talk a lot about kind of the timing involved in beach blocking. And Andy doing a really nice job seeing soft stuff coming, kind of leaving his arms loose and free to move.
It's now up to 12 total blocks, and that's a heads-up play if I've ever seen one.
So we've seen the blocking prowess. There's a little bit of the savvy right there, ducking out of the way as Avery tries to go hard into the block.
Must be nice having to duck out of the way
right.
with your head that high above the net.
A full mid-air crunch from Andy Benish.
They stay on Avery. That's a great scoop. Miles Partain, open net. Come on, Phil Dalhausser. Miles from the left. And goes head-to-head with the big fella.
And you can hear Andy a little apologetic. That set was a little bit tight. And watch the youngster get that right off the top of the sand. Great dig from Phil. And to the conclusion right here. Take a look at the footwork of Miles Partain. Get into that tight set so he can go high. Up over Big Phil.
Some implications for Phil and Avery, who are in the thick of the battle to get into the league. They improved their position by getting into this quarterfinal already. However, with a win here, they'd be sitting pretty. Trailing by 4, but Phil Dalhausser with the serve. One of the best servers, setters, players, I mean, you name it. His name is on the list on just about every single record.
You asked what Avery can do offensively. Pass it so that Phil can hit it on 2 is one option that we just saw.
See how much they utilize that. What a set.
Yeah, we talked about how high they like to play the ball, both in service reception and in setting. And that was a good look at it. A difficult set over his shoulder. Miles not only getting it to the spot, but getting it up high for his big partner. Roll line.
Miles Partain, mentioned out of UCLA, some of the best hands you can see on the beach. What's so impressive about their style is that Andy, as a middle blocker, is still a great setter.
Indeed, yeah. Great hands, and that's so critical in that option offense, like you mentioned.
Back to serve. 4-8.
Nice deep shot from Avery Drost. Avery, 37 years old, stands at 6'5". Out of Redondo Beach. Played college ball at Westmont. Angled approach for Miles Partain. And you don't even hear the contact of his hand on ball. That's just how smooth it is.
That's excellent hand control, if you want to call it that. His control on the ball is beautiful.
Miles Partain is adding accolades in his time on the AVP.
Is just out of bounds.
Not only a great defensive player, but named best offensive player the last 2 seasons, most improved in 2022, most valuable in 23. That's one heck of a title. You go from most improved 1 year to best player. I mean, come on now, Miles Partain.
Yeah, I'm not sure what everyone saw out of him the year before he was most improved. They just thought he was a hack at 18 or whatever he was at the time.
Serving to the sideline. Avery with a hammer.
Yeah, that was a really good side out, because that was a tremendous serve from Andy Benish. Great pass from Avery. Maybe that kickstarts their offense a little bit on the side of Phil and Avery.
Avery Drost, even though still looking for his first title, comes with a good deal of experience on the AVP, making his debut back in 2009. He's a longtime high school volleyball coach. And there's the beauty of the jump set. Instead, it's the option.
It's interesting because one of the things that, you know, people wouldn't necessarily know about Miles Partain, a lot of these athletes like to play a little no-jump game as a warm-up in training, where, you know, it's exactly what it sounds like. You just don't jump, you shoot the ball around, and Miles is all but untouchable in that game. That's how good his vision and his shot execution is. So he can option whether he's standing on the ground, whether he's jumping, whatever it is. He can do it out there.
Maybe it has something to do with, you know, the setting thing, right? Like, you're always looking for like some sort of dump opportunity on the indoor game.
Yeah, it could be. He's just got a great sense for the game as well, and ability to execute all varieties.
Partain just 22 years old. And they're starting to take away the angle from Avery Drost. They better figure out something quickly.
Yeah, it starts to get pretty severe kind of in between the ears, right? When you've been stuffed a few times, you've made some
Women's
errors,
timeout,
you're
early
getting
timeout, a
dug. You feel like there's nowhere to go around the big
Benesh
block.
and Partain.
Andy
Producer
Benish.
Kelly, what do you want from me?
This place has gotten a
What do you
bit
want to talk
quiet.
Yes,
I think they're feeling right now, feeling it for Avery and Phil, trailing significantly. A look now to our outer courts as women's contender bracket action continues on. Flint and Scholes, that's the #4 seed in this competition. They took an early loss and now are facing Bauer and Rice. And a bit of a battle in the first. Wow. Kahn and Sowers up 18-10 over Rodriguez and Urango. Kahn and Sowers definitely going to be improving their place in league standings.
Yeah, and if you like drama, get your calculators out and start doing the math on what the implications are for all these teams and their finishes here in Chicago, because it all wraps up tomorrow.
The women's race, we couldn't have dreamed it better at this point. Like the 7, 8, 9-ish spot is really interesting to follow.
Oh, yeah.
Denenberg, Harward are in that mix, as are Abby Van Winkle and Savvy Simo. Not to mention, you've got teams like Rodriguez Urango. They have a couple nice finishes already in Heritage Series events. They've got a good insurance policy. The top 8 teams, of course, making the inaugural league. And the AVP does have the opportunity for 2 wild cards on both the men's and women's side to get in.
Make it 14-5.
Bauer Rice can work themselves into the mix too.
Yes.
With a good finish in that match.
Gotta stop the bleeding somehow here. That doesn't help. It's like pouring salt in the wound.
Yeah, that's going with a slice of cardboard right into your open wound.
Benish and Partain just playing in their 2nd Heritage Series event of the year. They missed out on Huntington Beach. They made the final in Manhattan.
Let's take our technical automatic timeout
And right now,
at 15-6.
are looking pretty in the quarterfinals.
Benesh and Partain.
Yeah, it is. If you don't win one of the events, it's your best 2 of 3 finishes. And so they're guaranteed no worse than 5th here. You think a 2nd and a 5th is enough to get them in pretty comfortably.
Got a thought for you.
Okay.
So with the league just around the corner, if you go through the
Cruise
chronicles of time,
Hard
who
Ice
is
Tea
a
made
former
real
team
iced
you
tea.
would have loved to have
And
seen and
real
who you
vodka,
think would have
not
done
fake vodka.
significantly well?
Real
Maybe
iced
some
tea,
of the
real
names
vodka,
on
no
this
alcohol to
list,
fill you up.
if
Head
they
over
had a
to Beer
chance to play
Garden.
in the league, who would you have wanted to see of those who have retired?
Kitchen and ADC Burger. You
Well,
can also grab
I mean,
a
I
Sun Cruiser Hard
grew up
Iced Tea.
watching
They
all
got
those
iced tea
guys, and
flavor.
so, you know, Karch and Kent, of course, I would like to see them in any version of beach volleyball, and same with Smith and Stoklos there. And we're very fortunate that we still get to currently watch Phil Dalhausser, #5 on that list. So I would go with all 4 of those guys just above him on the all-time wins list.
Okay, I like it. I'm even thinking, like, what if we brought back like a Jake Gibb or maybe a Nick Lucena into the mix? Just saying, it would have been
Nick,
fun to see those guys in a format like that.
Certainly, certainly. I also have to give a nod to the other kind of legendary team, Hovland Dodd, right? With Hovland's brashness and MD, such a cool character, and still influencing a lot of our athletes out here from a coaching standpoint. They would be great entertainers, without a doubt.
Well, and they'd also probably be accustomed to some of the changes that you'll see in the league in terms of the scoring system. A lot of those guys having played with, you know, timed rounds at one point or another.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, they did go through some different incarnations. It was old school scoring, we call it now, right? Where you had to serve to score. And there was a time clock at one point. You're very correct.
Meanwhile, 16-6 on Stadium Court. Long platform for Phil Dalhausser, throwing up some butter.
That was a fantastic set. Just full sprint, dodging the pole, putting up a beauty.
Drost has seen 13 attempts. Finding a nice one there. Bringing it from the service line, Dalhausser. Big on big.
Yeah, and that was very big. That was happening high above the tape. Andy, great footwork again. Swinging high and hard off the hands of Phil.
Give us some contact point context here. Like, how high is that?
Well, the top of the antenna is 11 feet. And I would guess that that was happening very close to that number.
Basketball hoop sits at 10 feet high, just to give you some reference points. A little pokey dig for Phil. Adding one more to the scoreboard for Benish and Partain after the missed serve.
Like Luke Combs says in one of my favorite songs, sometimes when it rains, it pours.
Didn't know you were a country music fan.
A double contact is the call. It is 19-8.
Sparingly. I like some Luke. I like a little Morgan Wallen, but I mean that's kind of getting into the crossover category, right?
Yeah, they still got the gruff in them. You know, a little bit of that Texas country.
Yeah, a lot of songs about Tennessee. Yeah.
Good serve for Andy Benish.
We're going to switch sides. It is
More of the storm
28.
coming from Partain and
That
Benish.
is 20-8.
The rainstorm, maybe?
And it is set point for Miles and Andy.
They're all juiced up on the mango.
I was going to say it's just another weather reference.
Yeah.
Set point for Benish and Partain.
This mango flavor is delicious. Ooh.
Nearly goes back to back.
Yeah. He was trying for a highlight serve there. Just barely missed.
Another set point opportunity for Benish and Partain.
Set number one,
Phil
21-9.
sends that wide and sends us to a second set.
It's all Benesh and Partain in
Benish
the
and
first.
Partain, I mean, they did it in just about every way. You saw the great
nice
blocks
Chicago.
to
It is
start it
time
off for Andy Benish, and then he closes with an ace.
DJ. So here's the deal. I'm going to give you 3 song choices, and then I'm going to read them.
How about a little magic, huh?
Yeah, baby, that is right. It is time. Ladies and gentlemen, I could not be happier to be right here, right now.
We're in Austin, Dallas, Texas, for San Diego.
Get involved and have a reaction out here.
big venue to close out the Heritage Series events, but we are not closing out the season. 1 versus 4, the other quarterfinal on the men's side. Everyone looking for the title here. Theo Brunner and Trevor Crabb looking to go back to back, and specifically for Trevor, he's looking for 3 straight here in Chicago. And champions will face off against Miles Evans and Chase Budinger. And by the way, there's gonna be some fireworks.
You don't want to miss that one.
Second set now. Can they turn the tide? Phil Dalhausser and Avery Drost unable to find double digits in the first.
Yeah, you said it kind of right at the end of that first set. Miles and Andy did it every which way on the court. Set number 1, starting off with their beloved option play here in the second. We'll see if Phil and Avery can find any footing.
Whoa. Good defense, but the second contact goes the length of the net.
I love that, especially running that way as a left-handed player. That's kind of your lead arm, right? And that's a couple unbelievable layout digs we've seen from Miles Partain already in this match. Have a look. He's so patient, doesn't go until the shot is hit, and has the speed and the control to chase that down.
Great to see Miles Partain competing. He's been dealing with a little bit of an elbow issue for a few months. Working on his health. There's another ball. The direction of Dalhausser and Drost.
Might be the first quote-unquote real point we've seen out of them in this match so far. Started with a good serve. Big Phil. One of the many categories, as you mentioned earlier, that he's the best of all time.
I don't think I've ever seen Phil Dalhausser with a little bit of stubble. You notice that?
He's in his George Michael period.
Phil Dalhausser, 44 years old. Yeah, years young. We'll go with that.
Sprightly 44.
He's got a volleyball academy now in Florida. Imagine getting coached up by that guy. Miles Partain. They're both on it. Side set, open net. And that's what they do best.
The wrist flexibility, I mean, Avery doesn't like it.
All agree, a beautiful set.
Have a look. I think on this one, he's got a legitimate case. It is kind of a highlight one way or the other, but you know, there is a little bit of an extra kind of chuck there at the end, if we're being honest, but still an impressive play from Andy and Miles.
Yeah, contact point a little bit over the left shoulder, finishing on the right. Maybe just a bit. Still a cool highlight.
We all enjoyed the highlight out of it. We can debate later whether it was clean or not.
Andy Benish back at the service line. He's also leading this weekend in terms of aces per set.
A nice swing. Good trajectory on that. And Andy's serve has been great in this match. He's really got kind of an interesting tempo to it, right? Kind of a lower toss for such a big, long athlete. But I think that sort of makes it feel as though it's getting on you quicker. You don't kind of have that rhythm to watch the toss go up and kind of time it. He just throws it up, and it all of a sudden seems like he's right on top of that, and it's coming at you.
It's wild to think about just how many different ways you can attack a team from the service line and the different styles of serves. Not to mention somebody's jump topspin serve, even though it looks potentially the same, it could have a completely different flight path, trajectory, speed, and look to it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's an interesting conversation, you know, when people talk about some of the technical aspects of the sport, right? I think there are some absolutes as far as, you know, you want to contact the ball over your hitting shoulder, things like that. But there's rarely ever one right answer to any question, right? I think the most correct answer to just about anything is what can you repeat over and over and over again? And whatever that is kind of the answer to your question on how I should do any given skill, right?
Well, and a great example, Phil Dalhausser, his jump serve, he's actually a little bit more goofy footed, right? So instead of doing the traditional left, right, left as a right-handed attacker or even server, he kind of goes the opposite direction. Not to mention he tosses, correct me if I'm wrong, but with his left hand instead of his right, where so many will toss with their right and attack with their right.
Correct.
I mean, his hands were parallel to the ground.
Yeah.
And the lead is
which is,
out to 4.
I always think,
7-3.
ironically, as we look at it here, big pike over the net. That's how every coach you've ever played for shows you how to block, as if we've ever, any of us, been up that high to press our hands straight over parallel to the ground.
Yeah, our belly buttons at the height of the net.
Right.
Right. Says the little barrow sitting next to me.
I've got some pictures from my past of my wrists over the net.
He says as he was playing on a children's net. 7-4, Benish and Partain still with the lead. I want you all to know, Rich just pulled up a photo of himself.
That one just out wide, 8-4.
With my wrists over the net.
With his wrists over the net. There's photo evidence. Drost from the left side. And those are just mean.
Have yourself another.
I mean, Drost falls backwards, stumbling, and I think everybody else is. That thing was daunting to have to face.
Yeah, and we talked about Avery trying to have to move Andy around a little bit, right, to, I don't know, lessen his physicality. It did not work out so well on that instance. Ace to boot.
Ace number 2.
Things are continuing to stay a little bit out of hand from the perspective of Dalhausser and Drost in this one.
A look to the past champions here in Chicago. We mentioned Trevor Crabb looking for 3 straight. This time he's trying to go back-to-back with Theo Brunner. 4-time Manhattan Beach Open champion Trevor Crabb. Chase Budinger also in the mix, as he won alongside Casey Patterson in 21. Somebody else has gone back-to-back in Chicago as well. That's Taylor Crabb and Jake Gibb. Check out that ball. Sky ball off the platform.
That was a great shot ultimately from Phil. A little bit of a missed handle on the free ball, but how about the athletic move of Andy Benish off of his zone touch, turning and getting that second contact? That is, have a look right here. This move from big 6'9", he hits the ground and is immediately running.
I mean, you see blockers make plays after they get a touch off the block, but usually it's only, what, a step? He took 2 steps and a full layout and still got to it. He was nearly to the service line.
One back for Phil and Avery. Pick up, yeah. Andy, no doubt, a little bit winded from that rally prior. Even the balls he doesn't block, however, I'm so impressed with Andy's just technique in this match. He's reading the game well. He's in all the right spots. He's kind of up big when guys are hitting. He's waiting and delaying a little bit when they're shooting. He just seems to be pretty dialed.
Bit of tempo. And if that doesn't tell you about the health of Miles Partain, I don't know what else will, because he elevated really solid power from him against the block of Phil Dalhausser. Miles Partain out of Pacific Palisades High School. Talked about how analytical this guy is. He's a valedictorian, National Merit Scholar. Starts talking about numbers and it's instantly over my head. Partain started his career on the AVP at a very young age, but ended up winning his first title alongside Paul Lotman in 2022. Wasn't even 21 years old at the time. There's the dig from Avery. Turns another.
That was excellent patience defensively. I kind of like how Phil and Avery, I mean, it's, you know, they're running into a little bit of a juggernaut here in this match thus far anyways. But I like the way they approach it. They don't kind of bite on the jump sets. They just, you know, Phil sets up on who would be the attacker. And if the second ball comes, it's Avery's responsibility. He does a nice job with it there.
Miles loves that swing. Why was it so special?
Well, I mean, it's coming from the back half of the court, right? So Andy's vision is compromised a little bit, but he keeps it high, rattles the big hands of Phil. That might be some of the most enthusiasm I've heard out of Miles, too. Usually not very vocal, but he was very impressed with that swing. There's another look at it.
Is it in? Is it out? Avery thought it might be in. It is out.
Avery has found some success. Kind of that deep, flat cross-court ball. That one just a few inches long. So technical timeout still belongs to Benish and Partain.
It is out of bounds as we take our automatic technical timeout.
Benish and Partain currently hitting 545 as a team.
We'll have another match for the semifinals. It'll be Chase Puttinger and Miles
We showcased the men's draw where we sit in terms of the matchups. One soon to come as Chase Puttinger and Miles Evans are already warming up on Stadium Court. They will face off against Theo Brunner and Trevor Crabb. Talk about a little bit of a wait for those guys. The 3 o'clock window now. But there were some words, more like Instagram comments shared between those two teams. I'm gonna tell you, there's gonna be fire. The 1 versus 4 still to come for your men's quarterfinal matchup. There'll also be a women's contenders bracket matchup. We know Chang and Hughes will be sitting in that contenders final. Still to be determined who they will face. Match is still taking place between Betsy Flint, Julia Scholes, as well as Brooke Bauer and Megan Rice. Tough first set, or excuse me, a close first set between those two teams.
I don't think you were wrong. I bet you it was tough also.
I bet it was. Fair. Carly Kahn and Devin Sowers facing off against Tony Rodriguez and Gina Urango. That's also in second set action. Catch all the action on Valley Live. Our finals played out on the CW tomorrow. A lot of matches coming your direction on Championship Sunday. A premium viewing experience. 10 total on this Saturday on Stadium Court. Another 6 tomorrow.
Turning one back.
There's another ace for the leader in Chicago.
Andy and Miles, and this one is
Andy and Miles would love to
15-8.
bottle this type of performance because it seems so effortless. All parts of their game are firing right now.
a different place to attack. How to keep it on his side. From 7 feet off,
Wow,
he says
Miles
light
and Andy
work.
just not making
I like
mistakes.
that
They're
defensive
so
positioning from
good.
Miles as well. He's kind of far into the angle, sort of crashing back towards the middle, so any ball he digs is going back into the meat of the court. And then he's just got that smooth power in transition, almost deceptive with that snap.
We'll take a timeout, team. A timeout.
This
Here's
dig.
set 2.
Creating so much backspin, keeping it on his side. Keeping those shoulders squared to the other. Miles Partain, 9 of 14, just 1 hitting error on his side. It's the only hitting error in this entire match for Benish and Partain. As you look to the outer courts, there's a glimpse, the 22-20 in set 1 for Bauer and Rice. That is a huge first set win for them, but they're in some trouble here in the second. Kahn and Sowers even at 19 with Rodriguez and Urango.
They just leveled it up. They were a little bit of a deficit the last time we looked in.
Could that go 3? So courts 1 and 2 still in full effect. And yeah, Rich, what am I looking at here? Where are those wrists? Are they actually above?
That's a terrible angle. And what I'm trying to do is just shape it for the defense. You can see that the middle blocker from Hawaii clearly only hitting about 2.5 feet over me in that picture.
I'm sorry, how did this come to life? Because you were a libero. How'd you even end up in the front row?
In the college, I was an outside hitter because the libero position had yet to be invented. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to make that an age joke, but somehow I did.
Oddly, I don't believe that.
I'm so sorry. Sort of. 16-9 on Stadium Court.
Well, you notice the ball is white back then too. There's a lot of age giveaways in that photo.
Into the net, point to Phil and Avery for 10.
One more error from Benesh and Partain. Again, this is a quarterfinal matchup. Winner moves on to the semifinals. Right now, Benesh and Partain are looking like they've already booked their ticket.
Still a little bit of work to do, but these have been running pretty smoothly on that side of the net.
He goes right back to it. A little bit of a miss hit, but nonetheless, it's a kill.
Yeah, it looked like one of his fingers might have gotten stuck in that one, but still enough snap to roll it on the back line.
What can Drost do here? He finds the cut. That's one we really haven't seen. Working with that heavy cross court and deep into the angle.
Yeah, Benish has closed that down for the most part of this match, right? He's been able to sneak a couple past that direction.
Time it's the option. Phil's quick, but Miles Partain is quicker. Lefty dig for Avery Drost. Longest rally to this point. Through the middle. Could that be the spark?
It could be, but I mean, how about the effort on both sides of the net? I love that even with a pretty significant lead, there is no quit in Andy and Miles.
Not even sure what the highlight of this play is.
Well, there's a few. That's a great cut, great dig.
Another dig for Avery. And then finds another look. A seam ball for Drost.
Yeah, just some phenomenal effort and some phenomenal defense, both sides in that rally.
Taking a second in the box. Avery, Drost, Phil Dalhausser have worked themselves into positive numbers offensively. As a look to the VIP section. Hey, wait a second. What's Mark Sherman doing in the VIP? Doesn't he know it's a work day? What you doing, Marky Mark? Do you think he knows he's currently on the Jumbotron as well as our coverage?
That's an extra part of the VIP experience up there.
Somebody tell him.
What's the back one?
I mean, can you blame him? Is there a better viewing experience than here on the AVP?
Here we
You
go.
get a little shade up there. You get some snacks.
Phil and Avery looking for
Watch some of the
something
best
right now. They need a run.
volleyball in the world.
Here in the latter stages of set number
To
2.
watch
It is
that man right there,
12-17.
greatest of all time, if you're asking me.
There's no question he's in the conversation. I feel like it's like, you know, MJ or LeBron, like it could just go on and on.
Yeah, there's one answer to that one,
I
too.
knew you were going to say that.
And since we're in Chicago, I'll let you figure out where I think that answer lies.
You say something about the Bulls? Did he dig that with his chest? Andy Benish goes to the other side of the net. There's only one defender. There's now 2.
Yeah, he got that with kind of a chesty tomahawk, it looked like the first one. And then Avery said, I'm not having any more of that on the second one, tried to take his head off.
It's funny, it was just a moment ago you were having the conversation with a significant lead. They're still going after plays like that.
Absolutely. You love to see it, especially, you know, they know if they win this is their only match of the day, so leave it out there. And the best teams, in my opinion, really embrace the mentality that every time we step onto the court, it's an opportunity to improve. No matter what the circumstance, no matter who our opponent is, right? We're concerned about our game and can we add little pieces or can we solidify little things in our game, right? And that's an important mentality, I think, to have if you're going to be a champion in any sport, and certainly these guys are that.
A little bit of a scary moment there for Benesh and Partain, landing on one another.
Team camaraderie.
No. Add one more error on the side of Dalhausser. Drost, and just like that, Benesh and Partain are at a match point to move on to the semifinals here in Chicago. They asked for Skyball. You thought he might go there. Not Miles. That's his offhand. And gets it with his left. The match belongs to Benesh and Partain. They move on to the semifinals.
Here in
Just
Chicago.
a resoundingly solid performance from Andy and Miles in that one. Not a lot Phil and Avery could do. That is a tremendous look. Yeah, if you are a young defender, take a lesson from that. He kind of opens the hand up, maximizes the surface area, and kind of scoops that ball up. Very well done, young Miles.
Does it with his right hand. I mean, you want to talk about ball control. That's the epitome.
Yeah, it makes me think of a player you mentioned earlier, Phil's former partner, Nick Lucena, was very good at kind of scooping that both ways, too. Right-hander would do that with his left hand quite often.
We've seen Nick Lucena in the mix in terms of coaching now, working with Brooke Bauer. as they have done a really nice job, her and MJ Rice. But these two moving on to the semifinals with some outstanding numbers. Every phase of their game was firing, and apparently so is Chase Buttinger in this warm-up. He was bouncing balls. You better get ready, because this is what you are not going to want to miss. It's Brunner, Crab, Buttinger, and Evans up next.